Okay, so this is a tutorial on how to create SLX projects and SLP files in SLX Studio. Okay, to begin with, I have these 5 frames that were provided to me, and we're going to be making an aircraft SLP using these frames. Okay, so what we're going to do first is select all these frames, and we're going to drop them into SLX Studio. Okay, so now we can see we have our 5 frames in our SLX file, and you can see the frames here. Okay, our first step is to save as a new SLX project, and I'm going to go ahead and call this, I'm going to go ahead and leave it Trando Fighter SLX. Okay. Good enough. Okay, our next step, we need to set the anchor point, because right now our anchor point is right here. So we can view our anchor point by going to view and anchor point, or you can hit Control H. Anchor point is also called the hotspot. Okay, so here we see our anchor point, and we want to move our anchor point to be right here in the middle of this shadow. Now, one thing you can do in SLX Studio is you can double click the image to instantly get an anchor point. And if I double click right here, it looks somewhere around the middle, and I think that looks about right. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply, and now we can see here's our anchor point. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select all my frames and then hit apply. So we have these anchor coordinates for each frame, 176268, yes, all the way through. And let's see how that looks. Okay, it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so this is the center point of the graphic, and in the game this is where you will have your selection ring. And we can actually view that if we go to selection ring, and I'm gonna click maybe medium. Okay, and so in the game, this is what the unit will look like when you select it. There'll be this ring here, and here's the middle, and here will be the aircraft. Our next step is to apply the color palette to all frames, so I'm gonna select all, which you can also do with Control A to select all, and I'm going to apply color palette to selected, and here we're going to use the standard graphics palette. Now, there are many other palettes provided here, but this is the one that's used in both Age of Kings the Conquerors and Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, otherwise known as the 50500 palette, or 50500. And I'm going to click apply. Okay, so we click our first frame, we have our color palette already applied to this image. And okay, looks good. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my selection ring, I do not need it right now. And our next step is we need to locate any miscolored or discolored pixels in the shadow. Many times when I get frames with red shadows, there is a little bit of anti-aliasing going on around the edges, and we need to fix that. So I'm going to zoom in on this graphic, and let's look along the edges and see if we see any. Okay, there appears to be a little pink colored pixel right here. So we're going to want to fix that, and at this frame we can see there's some pixels here. The rest looks good. Okay, the next frame. Okay, I do not see any here. And then the next frame. There appears to be a pixel here and here. And the next frame. Okay, everything looks fine on that one. Okay, so to solve this problem, we are going to go to the Color Replace Graphics tool. And in this tool, we have several different colors that we can replace. So if you had multiple pixels that needed correcting, you can select many things here, but we're going to turn this one off and leave this one off. And this one, the default color for this one is the one that we want, because I often have the problem with this pixel. So I'm going to turn this one on. And if we look at this color, the color that I have problems with is 255, 100, 100. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to up the tolerance a little bit, make sure I get any of those pixels or anything else that might be a little bit off, and we want to color them as red. Okay, now I don't want to accidentally color something in the aircraft, so to only recolor pixels in this area, I'm going to set our percentage here. I'm going to set it to about 45%. That would seem to be somewhere around here. So we are going to only color this area, and we have many choices here from different edges. So we can do it from the bottom, which will go up this way, from the left, which will start here and expand out this way, and then right here, and then this way, and then top, start here and then go down this way. And then center will create a box right here in the center of the image, and then it will expand out in all directions. Center X will create a box from the top and the bottom, and more percentage, it'll expand out from this vertical line here. Center Y will work along the horizon here in the middle and expand out up and down. Top left will color only this corner here, and it will expand out a box this way. Top right, same for over here, but this way. Top left, start here and this way, and bottom right will start here and go this way. Okay, but we just want the bottom 45%, so that looks all good. Now another thing that we can do in this tool is we can correct the player colors. So let's say, for example, some of these blue pixels are not actually the player color blue pixels. There's 8 different color blue pixels that represent the player color number 1, which are these colors here. So I'm going to use this color as the base right there in the middle, because that looks to be about where most of the colors are. And we have our tolerance bar up to 50%. And as we have it on, we're going to omit grays, so that any colors perhaps in here that look kind of gray that might match the blue, it will not select any colors that are considered gray. I don't really need to worry about the percentage from an edge. It'll be fine. There's no blue here. And then you select your player color that you're matching to. So okay, what we want to do is we want to match this color here with this color. So you do not want to change this to red. Okay, when you, for example, let's preview this. Okay, so yeah, this blue does not match red, so your reds are not going to match up. What this will do is, if you had red player colors in the original graphics, then you would select red so that it would match to the nearest red pixels. But we have blue, so we want blue. I'm going to go ahead and preview that, and yes, that looks right. So now all these blue pixels should be player color blue pixels. Okay, so everything looks fine here, and we're going to go ahead and apply to all frames, and that'll automatically select them all and start the process. Okay, so now if we zoom in, we can look and see that our pixel was removed and everything looks fine. So the last one had one. Or no, it was this one. Okay, so those pixels are now gone. Okay. So our next step is to build our data graphics. Okay, we need data graphics to make an SLP file. So what we're going to do is go into the Generate Data Graphics tool. Okay, and in this tool we first have our mask. The mask is your background, and we have magenta, so that's default, so that's good. We have it on, and we have a tolerance 20% just in case something was a little off, but it's fine. We can actually go for 0 tolerance, so it's only this color. For shadow we have red. Yeah, so here's our red shadow. We want to only detect red and not any other color. And in this case, because we are working with an aircraft has one SLP file for the graphic, another for the hover graphic, and then another SLP file for the shadow. It's actually a different SLP. So here we can use this option here to separate the shadow into a new shadow SLX. And what this will do is it will create a folder within our project folder here, and it's going to call it shadow, and then in our SLX file we will have a suffix, so it'll say, for example, Trando Fighter SH and then the number. Okay, so we have that turned on. Okay, next we want to detect our player colors. So here we're using this color again, right in the middle, and our tolerance is 50%, so that should be enough to detect all these blue pixels. Again, we're going to emit gray so we don't accidentally get some of these pixels in here. Okay, and we have it on. Aircraft have outlines. They have both player and shield outlines. Shield is used in Galactic Battlegrounds. It's the yellow outline for when a shielded unit gets hit by something, it appears. You do not have that in the Age of Kings or Age of Empires, so if you are modding for those games, you want to use player only. But since this is a mod for Galactic Battlegrounds, we want to leave it on. Okay, and with auto crop, we have all this background space that we do not need. So we're going to turn this on to get rid of it, and it'll create images only around the actual graphic. Padding you can use if you wanted to make a little more extra space between the edge of the image and your graphic. Okay, and our color palette. Anytime you are modifying your graphics, you should leave this option on unless you are working with 32-bit SLPs. So we're going to go ahead and now preview. Okay, so here we can see our cropped graphic of our aircraft, and over here we have our data graphic, and in our data graphic we have a few different colors that represent different things. So magenta purple here is what represents the background. Even if this background was another color, let's say green, it'll always be magenta here. Okay, next we have white. White is for all pixels of the graphic. Okay, so all these pixels here represents white. Okay, and green represents any player colors. So in this area we have our player colors, so you should always make sure that your player colors are right and don't match some other color. Okay, we also have our outlines. So first is a blue outline, and that is for your player outline. Like for example, when a unit goes behind a building or a tree, you see a little outline of them. That is that outline. And for Galactic Battlegrounds, we have our shield outline, which is represented by yellow. Okay, and also down here we have our shadow as a separate SLX image. Okay, so now that everything looks good, let's just preview other frames. Okay, looks fine. Preview. Okay, looking good. Okay, so everything looks good. So we're going to use the apply to all option, which will automatically select everything. You could also just select them all like so. But let's just do this way. Okay, and we're done with this tool. We can close it. So here we have our SLX file with our anchor point down here. Everything looks fine, and it already saved our file for us here. Okay, so this is ready. We can go ahead and create our first SLP file. So to do that, we are going to go to File, and we're going to Export to SLP. And I'm gonna go ahead and rename this one to Trando Fighter 5, because this one has 5 frames. This is for when the aircraft is moving or attacking and so on. We use this one. So I'm going to save that. And if we open up our SLP viewer, and we can get our SLP file here and drop it in here, we can see our SLP, and everything looks fine. Okay, so now that we have our 5 frames, we need to create a hover SLX file. And to do that, we need to duplicate these frames until we have 25 frames total. So we already have 5 here, so we're going to duplicate 4 times to get a total of 25. So I'm going to click this 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to click apply. And here we have our 25 frames. So the animation right now appears to just move a little bit slower. Okay, and when we create a hover, what we're going to do is we're going to have the anchor point go up and down to make the graphic appear to be going up and down. And I have a tool just for that. If we go to Edit and Simulate Aircraft Hover with Anchors, it'll automatically create the hover effect that we need. So let's just click that here, and voila, our aircraft is hovering. Okay, so now that this one's done, I'm going to go ahead and save it as an SLX project. Let's just call it hover. And I'm going to export to SLP. And maybe I'll just call it 25, because this one we have 5 frames, so here we have 25 frames. Okay, and if we go to our SLP viewer, and we get our SLP file, and drop that in, we can see our aircraft, and it is hovering. So this is the animation that we have when the aircraft is idle. In Galactic Battlegrounds, they tend to hover up and down like that. Okay, the next step is to close out of this, and we're going to go into our shadow folder that was created when we split the shadows into another SLX file. So if we look in here, we have our shadow SLX. We're going to go drop that into our SLX Studio, and here we can see we have our 5 frames. Okay, so this is already complete, so all we need to do is export to SLP. So we already have our graphic and data graphic. So export to SLP, I'm going to create it in this folder with the others, and we can leave the SH suffix there. Okay, and last step, let's view it in our SLP viewer. And there we go. Okay, and that concludes this tutorial.